to celebrate spring, I actually have a little treat for you both.
Oh, I love a treat.
I'm going to go get it and I'll be right back.
Treat time.
Coming up on Knead To Know, exciting spring flavours, baking in between seasons, and some spring cleaning. That and everything else you need to know. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Knead To Know. I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and the creator of Bigger Bolder Baking. And as always, my two lovely co-hosts, Ami Shukla, who is the culinary director here at Bigger Bolder Baking, and Tianna Cohn, who is a professional host and an amateur baker. So what's going on?
Well, you know, we're halfway through March now. We're actually just a couple days away from the official start of spring, which for me is my favorite time of year. I love, especially here in California, spring just like, to me, is like the real reset of a year. You know, you get through January, February, they can be gloomy, they can be cold, but then spring, the sun's out,
A new beginning.
The birds are chirping, and you know, something that I personally love, spring cleaning. I feel like we all kind of align with this idea, but I saw on Instagram an old video of Drew Barrymore. She calls spring cleaning, it's time to edit. You know, edit your life, you edit your kitchen. And we were kind of talking about this, you know, as bakers, cleaning is a big part of baking.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, so I feel like it's half of baking is cleaning up after yourself and before you start and all of that.
And keeping your space clean. So I thought we could just quickly talk about, you know, some quick spring cleaning tips or just recent spring cleaning or what you're going to do for spring cleaning to kind of set yourself up for success.
Isn't it funny how the spring is the time that we always kind of decide to like declutter and like you said, edit. I did mine recently because we had some family here and I had some downtime. Mm-hmm. With baking, there is so much in our pantries. Like, I don't know about, your house is probably not the same as mine, but like empty bags. I have these big, deep cupboards. I've got so many. We do these bulk shoots and I need like 5 different types of nuts and, these specific types of flowers. And I have to go in after our big shoots, which we just had one, and go through all the cupboards and get rid of bags, put stuff that should be in the fridge, tidy up, vacuum seal. I'm a big vacuum sealer. And just kind of get ready for the new season because we start a new season of content about to come out. So in the springtime, we've just done kind of like our wintry content. We just shot all our content, which is coming out over the next few months for spring and then heading into the summertime. So it's a really nice time to have a big, deep clean out and a fresh start. Also because it's a really fun time, like for baking at home. I don't know about you guys, but during springtime, I think because we have the days of like noticeably, like even last night I was walking waffles, it was bright and I left the house at like I left the house around 6:30 and it was bright out and normally it would be dark. Mm-hmm. So it's a time where the weather is heated up here in Los Angeles. The days are longer and you just feel like being outside more. You feel like that what spring brings are the fresh flavors and all those things.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's like you want to like open your windows and open the doors and let the fresh air in, and it feels like you're kind of clearing out the must and the dampness of winter. But the other thing I wanted to say as a baker is a lot of times I'm at a store and I buy something. I'm like, oh, I want to bake with that. I want to do this. And I stash it away in my cupboard and I forget about it. So one of the best things to do when you're spring cleaning, aside from just all of the obvious wiping down your cabinets and all that, is actually take the time to empty everything out of your pantry if you can, and just take an inventory.
Yeah.
And it starts to become like, oh, this extract, this like very cool, or this like, can of this, or this bottle of this. And I forgot. I had this idea, then it got cold and I got busy or whatever. And so I think it's really fun to kind of remember what you have, especially the stuff that gets like shoved way in the back in a dark corner of your cabinet.
Do you know what? That's a really good point because baking ingredients are so expensive. Mm-hmm. And often if I have to go somewhere, if I'm bringing something to Georgia's school, recently, we dropped off stuff in January, I dropped off stuff to the firefighters. I'm doing a donation thing for a gala at Georgia's school, things like that. When I'm doing stuff like that, that I need it to be kind of low cost, I go through the cupboards first. I see what I have. Is there chocolate that maybe has bloomed, but I can still use in like a different application and make something out of that? Are there some spices I need to use up? Are there little bits of flour that I can combine together to make a cake or whatever it is? I hate waste.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good idea, is to actually have inventory of what you have so you don't end up wasting anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you don't know where to start for your spring cleaning, Martha Stewart has her 5 simple steps. So step 1, empty your pantry. Step 2, clean the shelves. 3, organize all the items. Step 4 is label your containers, which I think is such a game changer. And then number 5, most importantly, is maintain it regularly. So if you're a baker, maintain a nice clean pantry regularly. I think we agree.
That's a good idea. You know what I did start doing recently is actually, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 freezers in my house and in the garage and whatever. I started dating. When I'm putting like, if we put pie crust or cookie dough or whatever, I started dating all of that, because if I don't, it could be I could check in, 6 months time and the same pie crust is still in there. So I started pie crust, but then saying January, 2025.
Oh, that's smart.
I am really bad at labeling things when they go in the freezer. I just think I'm going to remember because I only have, I have 2 freezers. I have a fridge in the garage, but I just feel like I don't have that much stuff in the freezer all the time, and I'm sure I'm going to remember it.
Yeah.
And honestly, like there's always something where I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't even know if it's a dessert or if it's sweet or it's savory, or what is that sauce? Is it chocolate or is it like a dark, barbecue sauce? Like But I did buy a label maker, which I thought was like silly. I thought it was a silly purchase because I thought like just use a piece of tape and write on it.
Yeah.
But I never do that. And having a label maker makes it kind of exciting because it's fun and you can put a little symbol
organized.
on it.
It's all uniform.
Yeah, it prints out. It's not my messy scrawl. So if it's a little label maker that like makes you want to label your things and be more excited, it's okay. I think you deserve it.
Ami says it's okay. So as we are approaching spring, what are some spring flavors, some things you can start baking in the spring as we really kind of just leave the icky winter behind us?
Well, it's sort of an in-between time. Like, I don't know, like here in California, there's still a lot of citrus. It's sort of winding down. None of the spring fruits or, the late early summer, there are berries and stuff, but there's not a lot of them. They're not super sweet yet. So we're kind of in this like sort of no man's land of like, what's seasonal? What are we doing? It's bright and fresh outside, but it's still kind of cold. Like we're still able to turn on our oven. So we're in this like, I don't know, this transitional time. So I've started to like think about like, how are you bringing more springiness into your baking, or how are you brightening up your citrus? So while the citrus is still good, but maybe a little boring because we've been eating it all winter long, I love to take fresh green herbs and infuse them into citrus desserts. So you can do things like you can make shortbread with lemon zest and you put lavender or thyme in there and you make a lemon lavender shortbread, lemon thyme shortbread. You can do a posset, is this like wonderful old-fashioned English dessert that's like a sort of a very simple custard that you set with lemon juice or lime juice. You can make a lime and ginger posset, so you kind of have a little bit of a spice in there. It brightens it up. It makes it different. It's still very light and fresh and springy. Grapefruit is so good with rosemary. So a grapefruit rosemary sorbet, which is like nice and cold. You can actually make a grapefruit. You can make a grapefruit rosemary granita and eat it by itself, or you can put it in a cocktail, and it's incredibly refreshing. It's really good and beautiful. Especially if you use a ruby grapefruit and you've got this like vibrant pink color, and then it kind of feels springy. It's resinous. The resinous rosemary and the bitterness of the grapefruit go really well together, and it feels like a little different twist. And then if you want some kind of a cake, an orange genoise, some sort of a very simple orange cake, very simple cake with, you can make a a simple syrup out of a jasmine green tea or chamomile tea and sugar and water, and then you use that to pour onto your orange cake. Orange is very floral. If you are lucky enough like us to live by a lot of citrus trees, you have a fresh picked orange and smell that skin, it's like blossoms. It's like flowers. So as you get, in other parts of the country, the oranges may not be as fresh. You may not be, growing up in Connecticut, I didn't know how floral citrus fruit is, especially oranges. And to really bring that out, bringing in this floral aspect of, something that tastes or smells like orange blossoms or is reminiscent of. And then if you want like a chocolate cake, again, I would go like really simple, and chocolate and roses are an incredible combination. I mean, we have that for Valentine's Day as a look, but like just the flavor of rosewater and chocolate is beautiful and surprising. Yeah. And it really brightens up a sort of a dark chocolate cake. You can put a little rosewater in some ganache, some chocolate ganache, and spread that on a chocolate cake, and it's wonderful. And you can really bring in you have this like lovely transition. We're coming out of this winter time. We're bringing in these bright herbs, bright flowers. So that's what I would do.
It is, like you were saying, kind of fruit limbo. Mm-hmm. And it's not the most exciting time of year for fruit. So like Ami had some really good suggestions, and where my head kind of goes, if you're not a fruity person, because some people just aren't, when I think of spring, what I like to do is highlight different ingredients like pistachio nuts. Like white chocolate, mm-hmm. I would use, and this is early spring. I know for I suppose say for Halloween, for Easter, I always do a chocolate dessert. That's what we grew up with in Ireland. There would always be a big, dark chocolate dessert. But at the beginning of spring, I think like white chocolate. I think nuts. I think of orange zest, like you were saying. I think of vanilla a lot. And then one thing that you did mention, Ami, was like use of rose petals, of edible rose petals and rose water. Mm-hmm. Now, some people, I think rose water, I'm learning that some people either love it or they hate it. And I think often when you hate it, it's because you had too much of it. It was used, it was overused. But I would just think, those kinds of flavors are bright, they're fresh, they're floral, and they just kind of encompass like the season where everything starts to awaken. You start to really smell like flowers and the gardens and the grass in the neighborhood. So things like that. Poppy seeds, using poppy seeds in your baking, mm-hmm. like I would say, are really like lovely for this time of year.
Right. Well, Ami, you actually, as you were kind of listing off some things to do, you mentioned cakes a lot. And then that made me think, what do you see like on the website? Do people this time of year, like what recipes are people wanting to make? Because my brain wouldn't think cake necessarily, but like what are spring baked items that people make this time of year?
Often at this time of year, we create recipes that are cookies, nice, like light cookies do well. Generally, what resonates with people are bigger desserts, which are cheesecakes and layered cakes. A lot of that is leading up to like Easter. Mm-hmm. Family gatherings, people, like Ami said, being outside, opening the doors, al fresco dining. Like we've done that here even in the last few weeks, is that we've been outside in our garden, even barbecuing. So things like that are kind of bigger desserts that like bring people together. And cheesecakes, for some reason, every year, come springtime, our cheesecakes, our New York baked cheesecake, our lemon cheesecake, which on the website, this is a bit of a sneaky one. This is kind of a tribute to my mom. In the 80s, she did this a very long time ago. I don't think she would still do it today. But she used to take a jelly tablet, a lemon jelly tablet, melt it, and then mix it with cream cheese and cream, and then make that into a cheesecake, which is essentially like the ingredients of a cheesecake.
I'm going to just pause you there for a second. So here in the States, I don't know that anyone is going to know what a lemon jelly tablet is.
Oh, so what?
I was just nodding and going along with
like
it.
The block of Jello, the block.
Oh, you mean the box of powdered Jell-O?
No, sorry, not no.
Is it a hard tablet?
Yeah, no. It's not a tablet.
It's a
It's set jelly. Do you not? It's a set jelly. It's like it's set jelly. So say for instance, it's a step after the powder.
Oh, it's a concentrated
jelly.
It's a concentrated Jell-O.
Yeah, concentrated Jell-O. Well, maybe we'll try and find a picture of it. Concentrated Jell-O. They call it a tablet. It's like this big. It's jelly like, but it's firm because it's concentrated. You melt it in the microwave or over a double boiler, and then you mix in your cream cheese, and you're not messing around with powders. Funny, yeah, it's very different. And we also don't call it Jell-O, we call it jelly.
Well, yeah, I mean it is. It's gelatin. It's gelatin dessert. Jell-O is the brand.
Yeah.
It's like Kleenex. We just kind of call it that.
Yeah.
But like
No, it's gelatin.
here, and I am not an expert at gelatin dessert, so I wouldn't say like we never see jelly tablets, but I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Like usually if you go to the grocery store and you have the gelatin aisle, it's all largely Jell-O brand boxes of powdered gelatin, flavored powdered gelatin.
So it's just the step after the powder.
Okay.
So you've already made the Jell-O, but this is concentrated. Anyway, so my mum used to always make that. We have the recipe on the website. That in lemon and in I think strawberry, and I think for our own sake, Ami, if you remember, I think we put in some lemon zest to make ourselves feel better. But anyway, stuff like that is very popular, and I will say, and I'll stand by it, very delicious.
Well, I have to say, like it's as a baker, I don't want. There's certain things I don't want to like. And I'm like, putting a packet of Jell-O in cream cheese. Like, I don't want to like this. And then I have it, and it's actually really good.
So
Yeah,
good.
there you go.
That was like last time with the Shamrock Shakes.
Yes.
We didn't want to like it, but
Yeah,
we
but
loved
then we
that.
did like
yeah. Well, is there anything else just as people kind of, they spring cleaned, their kitchens are ready, they're getting ready for the season. What would be, or what are your what's the first thing you want to bake for the spring?
Well, I mean, I think, I know we did talk a lot about sweet things,
Yeah.
A lot of desserts and stuff, but I also there's, all these wonderful fresh vegetables that are coming out, asparagus, and again, fresh herbs. You can, put things I love to have just get a puff pastry from the store and get some goat cheese or some ricotta, put a little lemon zest in there, top it with some asparagus or, some prosciutto. Bake it in the oven, top it with some fresh green herbs, some arugula, something light and fresh. I think there's always a lot of sort of a quiche is always really nice.
Yeah,
You
we
can,
were talking about sweet baking, but we forgot about savory baking.
Yeah, biscuits, all of that kind of stuff that's kind of nice, and you can infuse it again. I mean, here I go with all my fresh green herbs again. But
That all sounds delicious. When I think of spring, I think of you're saying a picnic. You have all your cute little, it's very aesthetic. I'm sure TikTok probably just eats it all up, eats up a spring aesthetic baking.
yeah, well, there's a lot of bright colors. Again, it's just sort of everyone's sort of emerging. I do remember when I lived in New York. I lived in New York for 10 years, and that first warm day of the spring, it would just be one day, maybe in about a month from now or so, there'd be the whole city would go crazy. Everybody would be out. The bars would be people would be driving around. It was just like this massive party in the city. It probably still happens. I haven't lived there in a long time, but
I think, being from here and living here, maybe we kind of take for granted, but people who are have true winter and that sun comes out for the first time and you haven't seen it in weeks, it is. Everyone parties in the street. They're celebrating. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for all that insight on spring flavors and spring baking. I know I'm excited to start some fun spring baking. If anyone watching or listening is doing their spring baking, feel free to tag us at Need to Know Pod on Instagram. We love to see it. Or if you have any questions about your baking, feel free to leave us a comment and we can answer it during the Bold Baking Hotline, which is coming up next. We're back with the Bold Baking Hotline, where we answer questions directly from you. And we're going to talk a little bit about extracts for these questions. The first question is about homemade vanilla bean extract. And the question is from Sharon: how many times can you refill the alcohol using the same vanilla beans? And what is the ratio of number of beans to ounces of alcohol?
So that's a great question, Sharon. And I'm going to give you kind of a vague answer, but it does make sense. So everyone's container is different. The amount of vanilla beans you have are different. The more vanilla beans you use in like the smaller amount of liquid, the more concentrated it'll be. So I would say there's not really a formula of per ounce, but I will tell you, make your vanilla extract. And for those of you who've never made their own vanilla extract or are hearing for the first time that you can, it's vanilla bean pods and vodka. Or a clear alcohol, usually vodka because it doesn't have a flavor. Get a jar, the smaller, that means you can use like less vanilla pods, and just fill it to the top with vodka. You let it sit for 5 weeks. You give it a little bit of a turn every now and again, every few days. Make sure that it's just kind of, to give it a bit of a shake up. And you'll see the extract start to form and get darker and darker. When you start to use through your extract, top it up with vodka to make sure that the pods are always immersed in the vodka and covered. When you start to see over time, you're talking months, that you fill it or use it, you fill it up, and you use it and you fill it up, that the liquor, that the extract is becoming clearer and lighter in color, that you're getting to the end of your pods. It means that they're kind of almost spent. You've got probably as much as you can get out of them. I will tell you though that I've had homemade extracts and it could be a year or 2 years and the vanilla is still good in it. And then after you use the pod, if you feel like the pod is really spent and you can't use it anymore, make sure to scrape out the seeds, use them in a recipe like a creme patisserie or a custard or an ice cream, even in a cookie or something like that. And then you can dry out the pods. You can grind them up, put them in sugar, you can anything like that. You can get so much mileage out of a vanilla pod. But generally, when you start to see your extracts get fainter and fainter in color, it means you're kind of probably towards the end of your life and you might want to either add new pods in there or start over.
Great. I did not know you could make your own vanilla bean extract. That's so cool.
Yeah.
The next question is, will the alcohol get baked off to make sure the recipe is suitable for kids to consume?
Always. That's just a flat yes. Don't worry about that. Every recipe we have is a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I mean, at the most, it's going to be a tablespoon. Do not worry about that. Alcohol bakes off.
Oh, great.
You will not taste it and it will not affect you.
And it's just the tiniest amount, because you imagine it's a teaspoon to a tablespoon over, many, many servings.
Right. It's not like that wine pie where the
No.
alcohol did not bake off. We all stumbled out of here. No, just kidding. Is there a difference in taste/quality if I use glycerin? Does glycerin have the same shelf-stable duration as vodka?
Glycerin is an inverted sugar, and it is a non-alcoholic substitute for making homemade extracts. For those of you who don't know, it's a popular ingredient in Europe. You don't see it as much here in the US. You can get it here, and some experienced bakers use it. It is a non-alcoholic substitute given. It will just take longer for it to flavor. And you asked, what kind of shelf life does it have? It's sugar. It's inverted sugar. It will last forever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a non-alcoholic option, that's a good one.
That's I didn't know that.
You can also make a sugar syrup and keep it in your fridge. You'll have to keep that in your fridge though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a few more questions here actually about Swiss rolls. And just it's on the website as like a springtimey dessert and things that people make. And there was a lot of questions. So I thought we could tackle some. In reference to one of your spring roll recipes, if they want to know, the recipe doesn't call for vanilla extract. So will it taste eggy?
The spring roll is an egg-based cake. It's mostly eggs with a little bit of flour and sugar for structure and sweetness. So in general, these kinds of cakes are going to taste a little bit eggy or have a little bit of an eggy scent. That being said, you're mostly going to smell that when it's first coming out of the oven. But if there is any concern, if you want to make the Swiss roll and you're worried about that, you can certainly add in a teaspoon or two of vanilla. It won't affect the volume of the cake or the structure at all. Another option is you can make an infused simple syrup with, whatever flavoring you want, lemon zest, orange zest, vanilla bean or whatever, and then you can sprinkle that on the cake, and that once it's baked, and that will also help mask any sort of eggy flavor. But you also know that part of the stretchiness and the flexibility of a Swiss roll, you need that egg in the batter. If it's a primarily flour-based cake, it's not going to roll in the same way.
Interesting. The next question is, why is there no baking powder in a Swiss roll cake?
Oh, well, baking powder is a leavener. It's going to add lift to anything that you're baking. But with a Swiss roll, you are whipping egg whites for about 8 to 10 minutes with sugar, and you're creating so much volume with the eggs. It's actually an old-fashioned way of leavening cakes before there was commercial leavening. Sponge cakes would be whipped for a very long time, often by hand, before they were baked. So this is just, it's not necessary, is basically the answer. You don't need it for the volume. And in general, you're baking a Swiss roll on a thin jelly roll. So you don't want a load of volume. You want it to be fairly thin so that you can roll it up.
Well, great. Well, thank you both so much for answering all those questions. Now, to celebrate spring, I actually have a little treat for you both.
Oh, I love a treat.
I'm going to go get it, and I'll be right back.
Treat time.
Ta-da! Wow! So, in the spirit of talking about spring, I thought we could highlight, some spring flavors that came to town. These are from Sidecar Donuts. And so some of their spring flavors you're cutting into right now is their berry parfait. Right here is their lemon pound cake. On the corner over here is huckleberry.
Mind if I give you some?
Sure.
And then we got some other of their, fan favorites. We got cookies and cream. We got their celebration, which is their take on the classic sprinkle donut, my personal fave. And then a cinnamon crumble. So lots of fun flavors I thought we could try to kick off spring.
And this is lemon pound cake?
Lemon pound cake.
Ooh.
I love lemon.
Lemon pound
You
cake.
can cut that like half a
I will.
thirds.
Yeah.
I'll take the whole half.
This is what happens when I serve dessert. Everyone's just like, oh my gosh, cut that in half, lady.
Yeah.
I
And
know.
then
I will eat
huckleberry.
everything
We
on
gotta
my
try
plate.
Huckleberry.
Huckleberry.
Yeah.
I adore huckleberries.
What is a huckleberry?
It's a tiny little berry. Doesn't it look like a blueberry, I think? They're very delicious. And the flavor is like, think of what during the summer when you get like the most amazing blueberry and you're like, this is an in-season blueberry. That's what like
Yes.
every huckleberry tastes like.
Really?
In season.
Oh, I'm going to try that next. But I have to say, what I really like about this berry parfait is I don't normally like a jelly donut because you've just got this mouthful of jam. And there's just this very light, elegant touch. It's very good.
I just kind of made mine into a sandwich.
Why not? It tastes way better than this, but I'm going to say Dunkin' Donuts makes a blueberry donut.
They sure do.
And it definitely reminds me of the Dunkin' Donuts blueberry donut. Which brings me back to my childhood again. Between Shamrock Shakes and Dunkin' Donuts.
I know, right?
How did I eat?
Oh my gosh.
This is very delicious. I have to say, I love donuts, but the one issue with me and donuts is that they disappear in your mouth, like the yeasted ones. There's not enough. I need more, so then I have to eat multiple donuts. I love a cake donut, and I think these guys, Sidecar Donuts, do it perfectly. There's a few in LA. There's one the one just opened up in Pasadena, one in Santa Monica, which we used to go to, Kevin and I.
I got this one at Fairfax and 3rd, right by the Grove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That lemon pound cake donut is perfect
Yummy.
because it is a rich, heavy fried donut, but it has this bright, sour lemon glaze that balances it out perfectly.
Well, thank you both, and happy spring, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can catch every episode of Need to Know on YouTube.
From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment podcast.